of the world has been predicted on the regular for at least 2,000 years, with the first recorded prophecy declared by the Jewish Essenes in the years 66 to 70. They saw the Jewish uprising against the Roman occupation as the beginning of the end. The Messiah was about to arrive. Instead, the Romans crushed the revolt and destroyed the Second Temple. The prognosticators continued throughout the centuries, with everyone from Pope Sylvester II, January 1st, 1000, he said, to Pope Innocent III, who said it would be 666 years after the rise of Islam, which would have been the year 1284. Not to be outdone, Martin Luther also claimed to know when the world would end. Yep, turns out he predicted that the end of the world would occur no later than 1600. Sorry, Martin, you were wrong. Other famous individuals who thought they had a peek into God's plans included Christopher Columbus, who wrote in his book, aptly named The Book of Prophecies, that the world would end in 1501. When that didn't happen, he revised his prediction to 1658 based on a calculation that the world was created in 5343 BCE and would last 7,000 years, assuming no year zero. That meant the end would come in 1658. Wrong again. More recently, July 1999, someone re-examined a quatrain written by Nostradamus, which included a phrase saying, "The King of Terror would arrive in 1999 and 7 months." Of course, there was a whole host of folks, from preachers like James Gordon Lindsay to Jonathan Edward, as well as psychic Ruth Montgomery, who said Y2K would spell the end. Maybe they were channeling Pope Sylvester II, who placed his bets on one YK. Sun Myung Moon, the founder of the Unification Church, also predicted the kingdom of heaven would be established in the year 2000, and even Sir Isaac Newton laid claim to the world ending in the year 2000 in his book, Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John. This has gone on for centuries, with people guessing at when the world would end and the Messiah would arrive, right up to the present day. So far, they've all been wrong. The most recent incorrect prophecy was published by South African pastor Joshua Malakela and his many TikTok followers. He predicted the rapture would arrive on September 23rd and 24th of this year. And when that didn't happen, he quickly revised it to October 7th and 8th. Are we still here? We aren't out of the woods yet. There's always the future. It turns out Isaac Newton had an unpublished document that was discovered which said that the end of the world would be in the year 2060. Even mainstream Orthodox Judaism believes an opinion from the Talmud that the Messiah will come within 6,000 years of the creation of Adam, and the world will be destroyed 1,000 years later. Since it is currently 5786 on the Jewish calendar, this would put the beginning of the period of desolation in 2239 CE, 214 years from now, and the end of the period of desolation in 3239 CE. Man's attempts to understand God, his will, and his timing are woefully inadequate and inaccurate. Interestingly enough, however, the Haftarah for the first day of Sukkot is found in Zechariah 14, 1 through 21. It describes how the Lord will come to gather the nations and make war on them. It says he will set his feet on the Mount of Olives and it will split from east to west, creating a huge gorge. The description of the end times in Zechariah says, verses 6 through 9, "In that day there shall be neither sunlight nor cold moonlight, but there shall be a continuous day, only the Lord knows when, of neither day nor night, and there shall be light at eventide. In that day fresh water shall flow from Jerusalem, part of it to the eastern sea and part of it to the western sea, aka the Dead Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, respectively, throughout the summer and winter. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Lord with one name." The Haftarah for between the first and last days of Sukkot also summons an image of the end times. The subject of Ezekiel 38:18 to 39:16 tells the story of the war between Gog and Magog that will precede the final redemption. According to tradition, this war will occur in the month of Tishrei, the month in which Sukkot falls. Closely mirrors the war found in Zechariah, albeit a bit more graphic. Zechariah concludes by saying that the Gentile survivors of the war will be required to go to Jerusalem every year on the Feast of Booths to make homage to God. We do love a good prophecy, and clearly people throughout the ages have tried to determine what only God knows. Go back to Zechariah 14:7. The issues in the Middle East have everyone on edge. We cheer hopefully for the return of the living hostages and full recovery of the bodies of those who died and were taken as pawns, or who died or were murdered in captivity. It's a tenuous peace. We sincerely hope it's not just a temporary ceasefire or merely the prelude to additional attacks which Hamas and much of the Muslim world promises. The most important thing, the thing that we struggle with on a daily basis, is trusting that God has it in hand, that He is putting all the pieces in place to bring about the end game that we refer to as the days of Mashiach. We can count on our fingers and toes, calculate this or that, pull out dusty volumes written long ago by people we think have insight, but we don't know when it will be. Heck, we don't even know what tomorrow brings. We can't live in the past or imagine we know the future. We don't. And that's what makes this journey of life both interesting and difficult. Moses was perhaps one of the only people that knew when God would take him. He died after he had addressed the people he led through the desert, after he prophesied what would come, and after he had blessed each of the tribes. He was 120 years old, and according to Torah, his eyes were undimmed and his vigor unabated. He went up from the steppes of Moab to Mount Nebo, where God showed him the breadth and depth of the land he wouldn't enter. There he died, and God himself buried him so that no one would know where he lay. Deuteronomy 34:10 through 12. Never again did there arise in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord singled out face to face for the various signs and portents that the Lord sent him to display in the land of Egypt against Pharaoh and all his courtiers and his whole country, and for all the great might and awesome power that Moses displayed before all Israel. May we all live in the moment we are given. May we not fuss or worry about what is to come, but set about following God's commandments right here, right now. May we live as Moses did, undeterred, our eyes clear, and our vigor unabated to the very end.